All right, everybody, welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony Demakis, and this is Chat and Chow, where we get together and we have guests on and we talk about things that are going on in manufacturing, and we do it at lunch. Why? Because for the last year, it's almost a 1-year anniversary. We have not been allowed to really have lunch with people and do these kinds of things. So we decided that we were going to do this so that we can bring some entertainment, some information, some fun, and just get together in a virtual way that nobody did before, and now we all are. So again, I'm Tony. I am from Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales, where we are mold builders that don't build molds. And as weird as that sounds, that's who we are and what we do. So we handle all the things that mold builders don't want to do: the mold finishing, the coatings, laser engraving, laser welding, preventative mold maintenance, and hot runner manifold cleaning. So all those things that give you a headache, that take away from your day-to-day, the things that you need to be doing, that you just have to do to make sure it gets done, you can call us and we'll do it for you. What's nice today is we've got a guest who is someone that I really respect. They do things that we also do in some regard. And so we've got some similarities in the way that we do business and the things that we do. But where they excel in one area, we excel in the other. So there's a little bit of overlap, and that's okay, because in business, you need synergy and you need partners and you need people that you can rely on to get stuff done for you. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome my good friend Pete Kambouris from Wisconsin Engraving. Pete, if you want, go ahead and unmute yourself. Otherwise, nobody will hear your beautiful voice. While he's unmuting, if you're watching us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, go ahead and put comments in the chat. Let us know that you're there, and we'll get to your questions, and we'll answer those questions as soon as we can. And if you guys see me looking around, that's what I'm doing. I'm reading all the different chats and making sure that we can engage with as many people as possible and get those stories out. So, Pete, how the heck are you, my friend?
I'm great. Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted, and you sound beautiful.
Okay, excellent. I got my hardwire set up here, so hopefully we won't have any issues with the Wi-Fi today. So, Tony, thanks for having me on today. I made sure my office door was locked behind me so we can talk uninterrupted. So,
yeah, that's always a hard one, isn't it?
You know what? You know this, small businesses. I mean, you know, we're fairly large, but we're still small. Everybody's running wherever, trying to get whatever done because you know, also everything was due yesterday. So everybody needs an answer right away. But I said, you know what? Give me an hour, guys. Just leave me the hell alone. I gotta, we're going to chit chat. Like you said yesterday on your post, you know, two Greeks talking about manufacturing. What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? This this could go on forever. If we were at a restaurant, this would be the longest podcast in history.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. When you ask me, hey, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, hey, listen, man, I've never been accused of being the quiet one in the room. So anything is fair game. And when you got to tell me to shut up, you just tell me to shut up. That's what I do. That's why they got me on the sales side of things here. But real quick, you know, you joked about the Greek thing. So growing up, did kids ever, you know, teachers ever ask you, hey, Tony, what is your family? You know, teachers in conversation, what does your family do? And then you try to explain to them, you know, when you're 8, 9 years old that dad is a polisher and we do this. And they're looking at you going, huh? Did you get that?
Yeah. I still get that, trying to explain people what we do.
Yes. But you know what my default response was when I would lose the teacher, when, you know, I'm trying to explain mold texturing and engraving and this and that. And they're thinking, I don't know what they're thinking. I would just make up and say, yeah, we own the Omega family restaurant up the street. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, you know, and I know that's not politically correct anymore, but yeah, I own the family restaurant. Yes. You had breakfast at my restaurant the other day, if that makes you feel better.
You're Greek. You can make that joke.
I can make that joke. Yes. Yeah.
Then it's fair. It's good. Nobody's offended.
No. And you know what? When I was 8 years old, I mean, I'm 44 now. I wasn't, you know, 8 years old back then. Nobody cared.
You know, and I think that's one of the things you probably learned the same thing from your dad. One of the things I learned is how to not be offended.
Oh, yeah.
I like to tell people, if you can offend me, you did a hell of a job, because you are really, really trying, because I don't care.
between growing up with the family we grew up with and then being in sales, there's little that offends me. You know,
Yeah.
I've gone into customers and, you know, when I first started out selling, right away I went into a customer, you know, you're 20 years old. And the first thing they say is, are you Chris's kid? You just start sweating. Oh no, this guy knows I know nothing. He's going to tell my dad. I'm in trouble. I'm dead. You know, so
I've had those people too. You know, you go to a show and people go, Demakis, is that John?
yeah.
And my answer is usually, it is, but give me a chance. You know, let me be me. Like, I'm not my dad, whether you like him or whether you don't. Let me have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and we had my uncle here that used to work for the company. And then they went off on their own. They opened up a little engraving company here in Milwaukee. So customers were confusing the two of us. They'd
Yeah.
come up to me and start talking about something. And I'm like, oh, you mean my uncle? Whatever, Pete, same thing. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Touche. Same thing.
We got people watching all over the place. We got people on YouTube. Rich Teal is all excited that you mentioned Omega. Apparently he loves Omega.
Good.
I am willing to bet they have etched glass over the seats.
The partitions between the
partitions. Yeah. See, that's why, you know, Greeks invent everything, right? We had partitions before partitions were necessary.
We were pre-COVID.
That's right.
Safe. We were safe. You know, put a little Windex on it. COVID is gone.
That's right. Lindsay Diamond from Metro Mold is watching on Facebook with us, and Alex Callias from Retlaw Industries is watching on LinkedIn. So we got people clamoring in all over the place already, which is good.
Good. And hopefully my buddy chimes in. I'm actually drinking coffee out of his mug, and I told him I would sell his mug online.
And who is that?
So these guys are the Kinetic Company. They're here in Milwaukee. They're here in Greendale, Wisconsin. They're the largest manufacturer of knife blades for the tissue industry. Paper towel, toilet paper, wood, and steel. So I grew up with them, you know. So their company, what they do is they also have some of the largest grinders in North America.
Okay.
So they actually take the plate steel from some of the steel suppliers, and they'll grind it for them. So again, family-owned business. Grandpa started the company, Dad took over, the boys took over. Now my buddy's running the whole thing on his own. So it's always nice to have these buddies you grew up with or close friends that are in a business they've taken over, because to me, that's like our own little Harvard Business School.
It is.
You know, we get together. Hey, how are you dealing with this COVID thing? Hey, how are you dealing with an employee issue? How are you dealing with this customer? And we can do it over breakfast. We do it over lunch. We do it golfing, whatever.
So the key to that, though, is being able to have those trusted people who you can be honest with, right? Yep. Because so many times you got people that will always just say, I'm good. No, everything is awesome. When in reality, they're struggling, and you might be struggling with the same thing I'm struggling with. But if we both put on this bravado, like, oh, we're good, we're fine, there's no issues, then we're missing an opportunity to engage and talk with each other.
And with friends, you don't have to worry about that, because we know, you know, your friends that are in manufacturing will know there's ups and downs in the market. They'll know that there's always the one employee who comes in late. They'll know there's always one employee that you can never approach. They all are suffering through this COVID thing. How do you keep your guys safe, and how do you keep the company open, and whatever.
Yep.
So a friend can sit down and say, you know, Tony, this week it's really slow. I don't know what to do. Like we talked earlier, you know, how do you parlay likes and comments from social media into sales? And, you know, we all have that conversation. And my buddies own companies from 2 employees to 200 employees. So I get a nice overview of what's going on out there. And I found out that whether you're working with 200 employees or 5 employees, your problems are the same.
Oh, yeah.
There's no difference.
Oh, yeah. So real quick, Linda Foster says, hey, Pete, nice mug. Knife maker Kinetic. I'm guessing that's Kinetic. Chimed in and said they were laughing about the Windex thing. Thanks for the promo. John Carlson from GF Manufacturing, or Machining Solutions. I'm sorry. Yes. He liked the Windex comment. Apparently everybody's seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, or they all have the same grandfather.
Yes. Yes. John from GF has to watch this and has to laugh at my jokes. So,
Yeah.
we got his one machine in here. And actually, and I'll announce this live here, our second one is coming in next week.
Awesome.
So hopefully with no delays, John. It's coming in next
Pressure
week.
is on.
Pressure is on. Now it's worldwide, John. We got 5,000 people viewing. They all know.
So
It's
that's a
coming.
good segue. Okay.
Yes.
Some people may not know who Wisconsin Engraving are. Those people would be living under a rock. But
I think so.
why don't you tell us who Wisconsin Engraving is, who you are, and how you got started in this crazy world?
Okay, will do. So Wisconsin Engraving predates myself or my father by a long time. Next year will actually be our 100th anniversary. So like most of the manufacturing in Milwaukee, 1922, some German guys got together. They saw a need for an engraving company. Boom. Badger Engraving at that time started up. So fast forward to 1969, my mom and dad got married in Greece, decided that it's time for an adventure, headed off to the promised land of Milwaukee instead of LA for some reason. My aunt was living here. So, and at that time, in order for the immigrants to come in, she had to sponsor them and she had to find him a job. So she opened up the phone book and she says, great, my brother-in-law is an engraver, whatever that is.
Sure.
Opened the phone book, found Wisconsin Engraving, dumped my dad off, said, here you go. So fast forward, after he worked here for a few years, my dad was on a one-track mind that I came to this country, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to do better for myself and my family. So he bought into the company, eventually owning 50% of it. And then I started working here, in elementary school, actually. I don't know if we can say that out loud.
Yeah, I know. We've all done that, right?
Coming in on Saturdays. At that time, I was doing nothing but cleaning the pantographs and our decal duplicators. My dad would come in, he'd be sitting on the drawing board for 5 hours. I was cleaning. Did
you also cut the grass, pick up garbage, clean the toilets, all that?
No, I didn't have to do that until I was coming in for the summer.
Yeah.
Then I had to do that. So I took care of all that. I was doing all the cleaning. They had me doing some duplicating. I was making the welders really rich because we were sending out all the parts I was working on. Well, what's funny is my dad he'd come over, he'd look at the part, he goes, you screwed this up, punch out, take it to the welder. The welder was right around the block from us. Take it to the welder, get it back, and I'd go punch back in, and my dad's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm punching back in. He goes, no, you're not. Get it back on the machine and fix it. And our plant manager would come over and go, Chris, you can't do that. He goes, get away from me. I can do whatever I want. He's not getting paid for this. I'm like, okay. So, summers here in high school, it was basically earn enough money to go on vacation. At that time, we were still going to Greece every summer. And once we hit high school, my dad's like, you guys want to keep going? Go ahead. You're paying. So I would work, go to Greece. Went to college, got a degree in actual print and journalism, which is a little funny, because I wanted to write for one of the car magazines. That's what I wanted to do. Work was a means to an end to get cool cars. That didn't pan out. Not that it didn't pan out. I didn't try. Working here, everything was so diverse. Everything was so different. We have automotive stuff one day. We have, recreational vehicles another day. I'm like, oh, this is just as cool. So my dad's like, all right, well, you can stay on, but I don't want you working here the rest of your life. I'm like, yeah, but I actually like it, Dad. So here we are, 20 years later, I'm still here. I progressed from just being kind of inside sales, helping our sales guys that were on the road, doing things internally, coming up with new projects to make our company better, to becoming sales manager, to eventually being promoted to vice president, because my dad was actually supposed to retire last year.
Okay.
So I started buying into the company last year, but because of COVID, we kind of put the halt on that a little bit.
Yep.
I'm like, you know what? Stick around. We need you. I don't know what's going on. So here I am now. I'm a part owner of the company. My dad will, at some point this year, call it quits. Our partner
Is he
Bob,
really though? Is he really going to call it quits?
he will call it quits from the point that he's the owner of the company.
Okay.
Now, the captain of the ship is different. They don't always own the boat.
Yes.
Um, so our other partner Bob, whose father was also one of the founders of Wisconsin Engraving, he's here. He's retiring at the end of the year.
Okay.
So in 2022, God willing, I'll be the sole owner, and we've been trying to figure out how we can make sure that the services that we offer will continue to be valuable in the future.
Right.
Because I mean, our biggest competitor is technology.
How so?
Well, so all of our customers, tool makers mostly, so we handle the tool and die and the mold making guys. Would come to us with
real quick, I don't want to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
Let's make sure people know that you guys are some of the best engraving and marking, etching people in the molding industry, right? Working with automotive and everything else. So
yeah.
Before you say technology is our biggest competitor, what does that mean? I mean, what is Wisconsin Engraving? You guys are not bringing in trophies and putting people.
No. So we've always focused on tooling, even from in the early 20s, it was always tooling. Okay. So when I say technology, I mean, our shop used to be full of two-dimensional panographs, guys hunched over, working off a copy, doing all the things the tool makers couldn't do.
Yeah.
Whether it was cavity IDs on the core side or recycle codes or part numbers, whatever. And then all of the 3D engraving on the cavity sides. Because at that time, we were the only guys dealing in 3D.
Sure.
Up until, I don't know, the mid 80s maybe. And this is where I say technology. So now the tool maker, when he's cutting his core, Harvey makes enough tooling that they can just put in a little engraving tool and they can do their recycle codes, they can do their cavity IDs, they can do their material codes, whatever. So all that work gets lost. So you continuously have to keep pushing yourself to say, okay, I'm not getting 5,000 date code pins at the end of the year anymore.
Yep.
So where do we keep going?
Yep.
So that's when we moved into the CNCs and, the computers and the CAD systems. And, we're still engraving like we always did. The thought process hasn't changed. The guys that were running panographs are running our CNC department.
Sure.
Because engraving in my world is still a different art form that some of the tool makers are like, you know what, screw this. I'm not dealing with this little stuff. I just hogged out a 10,000 pound steel cavity block. Let them do the sidewall engraving or the electrodes for us.
Yep.
So, we've had to go into that arena where now, I have 8 vertical machining centers that we use primarily for engraving graphite for everybody in the country, because I cut electrodes and ship them. So that's where I say technology, at least on the engraving side. The acid etching, the texturing side, has remained as it has been for almost the last 100 years. And what I mean by that is we've begged, borrowed, and stealed from the printing industry. So the gravier guys, the rolls and the printing plates. So when you look at a Rubbermaid part or on your Polaris ATV or in your car and you look at the texture that's on the plastic, at some point that was all done off of a master plate. We pull wax off of it, we lay it in the tool. Okay. It was done for 100 years like that. Then all of a sudden some new films came out and we can do 3-dimensional stuff and we can do it on the computer and we can use large format printers to do those same textures.
Right.
Then, and John's going to like this if he's still on, the guys at GF Lasers came out. And they showed this technology with the 5-axis laser. And we were very cautious about it because, when you buy the laser, I mean, it's not cheap. It's quite a few house payments on that machine. We fought it tooth and nail because, in our company, we're like, this can't be any better than what we're doing. And, I'm sitting there going, just cut the check. I think we need this.
Right.
Yeah. So now we got into that. And again, it's just an extension of what we've always done. So we've advanced and we've left a lot of our little competitors in the dust. Historically, engraving companies were one-man, two-man shops,
Yep.
father and son, two brothers. It was always family, you know. There's not many left. The East Coast might be the last standing stalwart in this industry. You got a lot of the jewelry engravers.
Yep.
And they're using the mechanical machines, the decals, which for people that don't know, the decal is actually DMG Mori now. So Decal was a German company. A lot of tool shops will have the decal cutter grinders in there just to sharpen up tools. We
Yep.
got 24 in here. You know, so there's not a lot of engravers left in our industry.
No, there's not many that I know of.
No, there isn't. That I mean, you have your texture houses in Michigan.
Yeah.
You got the guys that focus only on automotive, and all they do is the acid etching or the laser. You know, we're one of the few shops where, if not the only shop, and I've been to texture houses worldwide. We're the only one that when you come in, if I blindfold you and take off the blindfold when you're standing in here, you think it's a tool shop.
Sure.
Until I take you into texture, you think it's a tool shop. So we're unique in that aspect. So that's where I bring up technology. We fought it tooth and nail, you know.
It's an easy thing to do to keep fighting that, right? And that's one of the things that, I give you guys a lot of credit for, because, we've got engraving, but we do, mostly the kind of engraving that you were talking about before, right? Cavity IDs,
Sure.
Cycle logos, part numbers, things like that. Somebody needs to change their date codes, we weld them up and we re-engrave them. But then for that, when we have texture projects, you guys are the first people we call, because,
and we appreciate that.
You have to know what your skill set is, right? And utilize those people. So I think we talked to John at one of the trade shows too. And we were like, dude, that is just way out of our wheelhouse. That's not what we are looking for right now. I mean, that's not a beast that we're ready to take on, because there's a huge one, expense, and two, learning curve and training for it and everything else, and making sure that it's right. When sometimes if you can just have the right partner, you're in a much better position.
You are. And a lot of people, I think, in many industries, not just ours, but they think if they buy a piece of equipment, all of a sudden they become this professional.
Yes.
You know, to make a car analogy, you could put me in the best Ferrari they make, the fastest one. It still doesn't make me Michael Schumacher or a Formula One driver, So I've had customers that come in and say, oh, if I buy a GF laser, I can just do all the texturing myself, right, Pete? I said, well, if you know how to design textures and you know how to apply textures in the tool and how to make it perform the way it's supposed to, I said, have at it. It's an expensive proposition, but have at it. I mean, I don't know what to tell people. I mean, if I walk into your shop and I sit down next to your welders and make that same comment and say, oh, if I had this machine, I'd be king of the welding. No, there's still years of experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
We sold a jewelry system to a customer, and laser cutting, laser marking system. It's an awesome system, but you also have to have a little bit of design background, right? Yeah. So they had a JPEG that a customer gave them that they wanted turned into a necklace with like a nameplate necklace. And it's got 3 different layers and shadowing and all kinds of stuff on there. And they're like, oh, so we just import this and we're done? And I said, no, you got to break this down, man. You got to look at it from a design perspective, and you got to say, what's going to be standing, what's going to be shallow, what's going to be cut out. How do we get that there? How do we connect it all? How do we put it all together? And then you got to take those parts, you got to import them in, and you got to layer it out, and you got to cut them in a specific way, and you got to do this and that. And they're like, well, that's not what we thought we were going to have to do. We thought we could just run this. And I'm like, well, you can, but you also have to learn how to do it. You want to put in a serial number. Cool. That's easy. You want to put in a QR code for traceability. Awesome. That's easy. when you're starting to do customized things, there's a whole new level of knowledge that goes along with it. You know, you want to make a video, cool. You can use iMovie and you can knock it out in a day. Now, you want to add backgrounds and some animation and some text and some this and stuff. Now you're going to get into Adobe Premiere, and that's a whole new level of things that you got to do. Hunter Gibby is back on. He does all the engraving at UTM, at United Tool and Mold. So I know he likes this conversation. Hunter is doing some awesome stuff with guns.
Okay.
The engraving that he's doing is pretty sweet. I give him a huge shout out for that.
Good. No, we've seen some very impressive stuff. Actually, my buddy up here bought a gun shop.
Okay.
And he texted me and sent me this picture. He goes, "What is this?" It was a little pantograph sitting in the corner. I said, "What are you going to do with it?" I guess they were, doing serial numbers, whatever they do. And he goes, "I don't know how to use it." I said, "Find some old guy. Put an ad for a pantograph engraver."
Yep.
And he did. He actually got the guy. But no, we did, we've always, our biggest problem was over the years is customers look at quotes or invoices and they're always like, "Pete, why is this so expensive?" Or, relative speaking.
Yeah.
Especially in the texturing where they didn't understand it. So we were one of the few texture houses to tell our customers, "You know what, come in and see what we do." We just spent 55 hours masking a block,
right?
For a 20-minute etch.
Right.
And so I think a few years ago, we started with, mold tracks, where they do the repair seminars and whatnot. Yep. And one of my sales guys at the time, he says, "Hey, can I do this? Can I do texture repair?" I said, "Okay." I said, "Don't advertise it like you're teaching people how to texture." No. So we started the class with them, and I got a couple calls from competitors asking us if we're crazy.
Yep.
And I said, "Guys," I said, "we all have to deal with when a tool gets damaged on the floor at a production facility. They try to fix it. And then when it comes to us, it's 10 times more work."
Yep.
What this class was trying to do is to explain to people, "Hey, man, this isn't easy. You got to deal with a deep gouge, and then it's got to get welded, and then it's got to get peened, this, that, whatever, color matched, all this stuff." It was to let people know that, hey, let the experts handle it.
Right.
And then, then my competitors were like, "Oh, thanks. You just saved us a ton of headaches."
We do the same thing. We're at that same class. We teach the polishing, the mold finishing, and also welding. Laser welding. And so there's two parts of it, right? The laser welding, we're showing people how easy it really is to weld. To be able to make those simple repairs, I'll say, right? But
sure.
Like anything else, our laser welding guys are artists. It's an art form to be as good as they are. And it's taken years and years and years and years of training. Same thing with the polishing. And people ask me the same thing. Why would you do that? Why would you sign up and go teach this class? Why would you teach people how to do this? And my answer is because they can't, right? Yeah. So we can show them what goes into polishing. We can show them how difficult it is to get the results that they want, and they can go back and try it. But anybody listening to this that's ever done polishing or works in the mold industry knows you stay in an area a little bit too long, you just blew it.
Yeah.
And so the point is, you can do it. Anybody can do it. Anybody can learn it. That's why we're bringing kids in and younger people with no experience to try and teach them. But, right, there's always the but if you want it done right and you want it done the first time and you want it done faster, you are better off sending it to somebody that can do it and do it right for you. I always use the analogy that Gordon Ramsay has shows all over the place and YouTubes on how to make the perfect steak. You think Gordon Ramsay is worried about you staying home and making your own steak? No, because you can't do it like Gordon Ramsay can do it.
No. And you know what, Tony? And I think people also have a trust then with suppliers or vendors that are willing to take the time to educate people.
Yeah.
To show them certain things. I go to different plants around the country to molders, and we'll do a little seminar with everybody, with production leaders and stuff. And hey, Pete, how can we get our people on the floor to understand that this heavily textured surface is fragile? Right. The first thing I always say is hide every screwdriver, crowbar, anything metal Because when
Right.
the part gets stuck in there, somebody's jamming a Phillips screwdriver to get it out, in the meantime, causing $10,000 damage to the texture.
Right.
I said, hey, man, I'm kind of slow right now, so I'm handing out screwdrivers in your parking lot. I said, normally we frown upon that because it's not only an expense for our customer, because we don't want our customer to incur expenses that they weren't anticipating. We only want to do work and everybody to be profitable. But when that tool goes down, that means their production stopped. That means they're in a pinch. So now it's coming to me and Pete, when is it going to be done? When? And they're calling you, texting you, emailing you.
Yep.
We've had trucks spend the night in our parking lot waiting, especially automotive stuff.
Yep.
Something goes down. These guys are driving up from Indiana or wherever, and they're waiting in our parking lot. Hey, Pete, you know what? We need that glove box store because we got 8,000 cars sitting there with no glove box. Oh, okay. And what's it from? Somebody pried a part up.
And you guys are like us, where you're generally triage, right? When it comes there, it's last minute already. So
we're on the field. We're bandaging the soldiers in the tent in the middle of the field.
Yes.
Or the helicopter comes in and gets them out.
And we have that conversation all the time where it would be awesome to be a mold builder and be booked out, a year in advance and know what you're going to work on and know the projects that are coming up. You're in the same boat that we are, where by the time we see it, one, it's late. Two, it's probably over budget already. So you're trying to cut back on that. And if they don't get it back, they're down and they're losing money because they can't run the parts. And what do you do? And so, this is my encouragement to anybody listening that's running a mold shop is talk to us early. Like, let's find out what projects you have coming up so that not the damaged ones are going to happen.
It's part of the trade. I mean,
that's a thing, right? But in the meantime, if you know that you have X amount of tools coming up and they're going to need texturing or they're going to need a high diamond finish, let's contact each other ahead of time and say, listen, in 6 weeks, I'm going to have this project. Can we book some time? That way you're prepared, I'm prepared, and we can deliver faster for you and make sure that it's done. Put other things on hold or tell people, listen, we can get this done, but it's going to be blah, blah, blah. And now we're all on the same page instead of waiting till the 11th hour to figure out how we're going to get this done.
No, and then you're absolutely right. And I find myself in conference rooms at the OEMs, and they're like, well, Pete, what are you doing here? I'm like, listen, man, you guys kick off a program to a molder. Molder kicks off the program to a tool maker. Everybody's quoting 16 weeks, blah, 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 blah. I quote my project, my texturing project, 2 weeks.
Right.
Tool maker, and no offense to any of the tool makers out there, they're like, oh, great, I got 18 weeks to build a tool. Sure. And it comes down to me, tool maker screaming at me saying, hey, Pete, hurry up. When I don't give them a fast enough answer, the molder's calling me.
Right.
And then my OEM customers will call me and say, Pete, we understand that 5 of our tools are sitting by you and you've delayed the whole program. What are you talking about? So I go and I sit down with them. I say, guys, you guys don't get it. You launch a $25 million program between molders and tool makers. And I said, I might only be getting $5,000 of that.
Right.
And the whole thing is on me.
Right.
The picture of Atlas with the weight of the world on his shoulders. I'm like, how come I have the most risk and the least financial benefit?
Yes. I feel that same way, man.
And we joke. I mean, we're for profits. I'm not saying that I need 25 million per tool, but you guys want to pay? We don't say no.
And I'm sure it would go to the front of the line.
Of course. I mean, everything is here at the front. Everything is front of the line here. Our production manager pulls out his hair because whenever he sees one of us walk through the shop, he's like, what's getting bumped?
Exactly.
Nothing. I just came to say good morning. Oh, by the way, can you move that tool with that tool? It's just, again, it's our industry. Yeah. You guys with the welding and the polishing and some of the engraving and everything else, the hot runner systems that you guys are cleaning. Yep. Well, when that's out of a tool, they're not making parts.
No.
I'm sure they're on your ass for that.
All the time. And big time too. And there's not much that you can do about it. That's why, we encourage tool makers or molders to do PMs, right? Like watch those cycles. And when you get close, make sure that you are doing the regular PMs, just like when you go to the dentist, right? Your teeth don't hurt, but you still go get a cleaning.
Yes.
Because you don't want a root canal.
Yeah. And we're fortunate that most of our customer base that's in the plastics industry or the stamping industry, they understand everything we go through. A few years ago, we picked up a new customer in the semiconductor industry.
Okay.
Now, these are the guys that go into these, super clean chambers, and they're in the white bunny suits. Remember those old Intel commercials? All the dudes.
Yep.
These are the dudes we're dealing with.
Yep.
They don't get any of this stuff. All they tell me is, "Hey, Pete, we sent you 50 parts. We know you quoted 6 weeks. Can we get them at the end of the week?" No. How much can we pay you to get them at the end of the week? And normally you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm like, guys, I can't physically get them done by the end of the week. It just won't happen.
Right.
And then it escalates to like 40 different project managers. "Pete, this is a $250 million deal for us. It's going to Samsung. It's going to this guy, and we need those parts." I'm like, guys, we had this time. I don't know what to tell you.
So let me ask you.
Yeah.
How do we properly educate people, right? So, there's that show on the Discovery Channel, right? It's How It's Made.
Yes.
Like, do we need more of that? I think we need more of that. I think people are oblivious, and I think there are really good engineers out there, right? Mold building engineers that know how to build molds perfectly, but I don't think they know, and maybe I'm wrong and I'm gonna get razzed for this, but I don't think they know the in-shop detail and effort that has to go in to accomplish the requests that they have in a timely manner.
I think the mold makers do.
Yes.
They know, because in their shop, it's hair on fire also.
Yes. Agreed.
They know that. And they grew up through the ranks as apprentices and, tool makers, and became project managers, whatnot. It's their customer and then their customer. So I think, Tony, what you do and what I've started doing, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, I don't know how else to do it, because you can't get into every single company and get into everybody's face.
Right.
2 years ago, I was invited out to Cupertino, California. I sat down in front of, so I was there for 3 days. They had a tooling session with a lot of their vendors.
Okay.
So I had to sit, I did three sessions a day for 2 days with 15 engineers in each one. So almost 100 people. And I was shocked that some of these tooling guys didn't know some of the basics of tooling. And the presentation I had prepared, my Keonce, it was all Apple. I just said, guys, just look at the pictures. Ask me what you need to ask me. I said, because my presentation has, it won't make any sense to you.
Right.
And, Pete, we want you to texture this tool in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but it has to look the same in Shenzhen, and it has to look the same in Brazil, and it has to look the same in wherever.
Right.
Well, it never will. One guy raises his hand and he says to me, "Pete, don't ever say never in front of us." I said, "Why?" He goes, "We get fired when we tell our boss no." I said, "Well, I'm not on your payroll, so I'm here to tell you something can't be done."
Right.
Because with Apple, their standard is so far above anybody else. I said, "Guys, you're actually asking me to push my technology, which is here, to make it up here." And I said, you're letting yourselves down because you have this great expectation.
Right.
And somehow you need to come back to our level. And I mean, a lot of the guys were really enthusiastic about it. And after one of my sessions, it was funny because I walked into the bathroom to go use the bathroom between sessions, and there's 2 guys standing at the urinal. I was waiting in line, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, you think that Pete guy knows what he's talking about?" I'm like, "Guys, really?" I'm like, "What do you want me to do? You called me out here to talk texture that none of you know about, or surface finish."
Now, let me ask you.
That's the only way you can do it.
If the place in Shenzhen, the place in Brazil, and the place wherever else had the same machine and the same file.
They do.
Okay.
They do. But like I told them, John, plug your ears, but like every machine. So you got a car coming down the assembly line.
Right.
Your Yugo GT. It's coming down the assembly line, and maybe the brain box that they're putting in it, maybe all of a sudden they have two different suppliers.
Okay.
Same car, same stats on that brain box, but maybe the one brain box was manufactured on a Friday, maybe the other one was on a Tuesday. I don't know. Maybe the machines that they made the brain box on was PM'd better than the other machine. There's so many variables.
Sure.
And the reason I say that, because it affected them so much, because they were looking at this under 50 and 100 power scopes, that any slight difference showed.
And let's be honest, okay? I know Apple has very high standards. I love Apple products. All my products are Apple products. But there is not a single Apple user that is going to look at their iPhone or earbuds or anything under 100 times scope to make sure that they're the same.
No, you're right. But them pushing so hard is what makes their product so aesthetically pleasing.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I have the latest iPhone.
Yeah.
And I'm the crazy guy without a case.
Yeah, you're nuts.
The reason I don't have a case is because I love the metal. I love the glass. I love the feel of this product. So I'm willing to risk this phone, which my screen protector has about 300 cracks in it already, because I love the feel. And if it wasn't for those guys pushing my industry, they wouldn't get to this point. So as much as I make fun, the people that produce this, a product that everybody equates with aesthetics and beauty and, you know, again, back to the high end, you know, back to cars, these high end cars that door handles are machined from billet aluminum or hood latches or whatever, carbon fiber, this and that. I was listening to a podcast about a company that makes a Porsche body out of carbon fiber. So carbon fiber is fabric, whatever, and it's got different patterns on it, whatever. They lay the carbon fiber so all the pattern lines up. I think they said they spend, you know, over 1,000 hours trying to make sure that all the pieces of the carbon fiber, they match up. I mean, and that's crazy.
Those challenges are what make people better.
Yeah, and it makes a $600,000 car, but that's what pushes our industry.
Yes.
You know, that's what pushes our industry. That's what pushes us to become better. That's what keeps us successful. I mean, back to Apple. I mean, they're mildly successful. I mean, you know,
I mean, everybody's heard of them.
They've done okay.
Yeah.
You know, I still think my Nokia 8620 or whatever that was, the little blue phone, one of the best phones I've ever had. But that was back
for a phone.
Right after the pager. It was back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what drives us. And
you could play Snake on there so well.
Yeah. You know, and you'd always have to make your calls after 9 o'clock just so you had minutes to use.
Yes.
But yeah, it's the drive, and it's what these new technologies that come out, and we always have to stay on top and look for things, and that's what's gonna, you know, you talked about hiring people and training people, and that's what's gonna keep younger people coming to our trade.
Yep.
Robots, technology.
Yep.
Big fancy CNCs. You know, I joke, you know, here, and you know, we always talk about going to the technical school and giving tours of our shop and stuff like that. And I say, well, guys, be careful. I'm like, why? I'm like, because they're going to come through our shop, and our shop is great. I mean, I grew up in here, but they're going to go up the street to this molder that's doing nothing but running robots and, you know, running 96 cavity molds and popping out parts like Pez. And they're going to look at that and go, whoa. And they're going to come through here and go, it's not so exciting.
We have the same thing, right? So we bring kids in for a tour. The only super technological advances that we have are laser engraving stuff and the laser welding. Other than that, it's all hands-on. And which for some kids, that's awesome, right? Because there are people coming out of school that want to work with their hands. They don't want to do computers. They don't want to sit at a desk. They don't want to do any of that. Mm-hmm. And I say, call me. We got a job for you. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to train you and see if this is a good fit for you. But when it comes to, super technology advances, like our shop here doesn't have any purpose for a robot. There's
Sure.
because everything is repair and high-end finishing that a robot just cannot do yet. And I know they've gotten close with laser polishing and robotic polishing and this and that and the other
Never
thing.
going to be the same.
Huh?
Never going to be the same.
No, it's never going to be the same because,
That
like
guy.
you said, each part
Okay.
is a little bit different, right? They may be machined the same, but they all need the same amount of attention and care. And sometimes you have to be able to recognize that with your eye and then go in and fine tune that and make it right when a program is just going to be the program.
Yes. Yes. So I started when I got into sales, the first recommendation somebody made to me was get on the SPE board.
Yeah.
You know, local Milwaukee section. Because like you guys, we don't see the whole tool. I don't know where it's being used, how it's being used, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. I see inserts, I see cavities, I see cores, I see parts of the puzzle. So to get better in tune with my customers, I got involved with SPE. You know, as a rookie on SPE, you get roped into every single committee that they can possibly rope you into. Hey, I'm a 4-year president of our local section.
Yeah, I am. I think I have a 2 or 3 year term as the chair for the mold technologies division.
Yes, yes,
And I'm loving it. I mean, I love the people on that board.
Yeah, we were lucky. I mean, I think our positions were only 1-year terms for the local board. But
Yeah.
every time at the last meeting of the year, I said, so who wants to be president-elect? Nobody would raise their hand. I'm like, are you guys kidding me? No, Pete, you're doing great. You talk a lot. You never say no. Keep going, buddy. Fine, whatever. So I got on that board, and then we started doing our education nights, and then I started talking to parents and students and teachers, and there was a lot of enthusiasm, which was great. But then I had a lot of parents say to me at the education nights, why should little Timmy or little Susie go into manufacturing?
Right.
I said, well, what's wrong with manufacturing? Well, I don't want my kid being a blue collar worker. I said, dude, what do you mean blue collar worker? I said, this isn't, 1932 Ford. We're in the old Rouge plant and they're getting beaten outside. I said, manufacturing, I said, is clean. As clean as you want it to be. I said, there's a lot of choices. And I said, if you don't want your kid to be quote unquote a blue collar worker, send them to the engineering school. Let them become mechanical engineers. Let them become product designers.
Right.
I said, we need that too. I said, we need press operators, the designers, and everybody in between. I said, go to WCTC here in Milwaukee, or by us, which is technical school, become a journeyman toolmaker.
Yep.
I said, it's a great career. Well, I don't know, are plastics really that relevant in our world? I'm like, well, you're wearing a raincoat, it's plastic. Your Starbucks cup is plastic. Your phone is plastic. I said, that car you drove in on? Need I say more? And they're looking at me going, I never thought of that.
Yeah. And now all your PPE is plastic.
Yeah.
All your dividers are plastic. Plastic's not going away.
Tony, people just don't realize what it takes to get into what is manufactured. They take it for granted that they're holding a pen, they're holding their phone or a mouse or whatever.
Right.
I got a couple little cousins. They live in DC. They're lobbyists, this, that. They're always pushing for higher education. Everyone should go to school. Everyone. We don't need manufacturing. United States is so far ahead of everybody. We should all be engineers and chemists and biologists. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Who's going to make the chair that your ass is going to sit on in school?
Agreed.
Who's going to build the building you're going to sit in? The HVAC? The book? The tablet? Well, what's China for? Oh, you're going to bring Chinese people over to build your building.
Right.
I'm like, don't talk stupid.
Well, not only that, but again, not everybody is built the same way.
No.
People don't want to do that. And let's be honest, right? We talked about it. Your dad didn't want you to go into your company.
Correct.
My dad didn't want me to go into my company. So for a guy that was making a really good career and able to put his son through college, I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful. But he didn't want me to work here. He wanted me to aspire to be something better than what he had going on.
Yes.
And, I think that's just that line of thinking that, we want something better for our sons or our daughters or our kids or whatever that looks like. Right. But I think that there there's a new, I mean, I love Mike Rowe, right? God bless Mike Rowe, because
Yes.
he gets it and he's trying to show people what actually goes into this crazy world and all the stuff we like and take for granted.
Because nobody understands it, Tony. Half the people in our industry don't understand how certain things are done.
No.
You can't grab somebody off the street and say, hey, look at this Rubbermaid container. I got my mashed potatoes in it. You know how this was made?
Right.
I don't know, picked it off the cornfield. I don't know. And that's what we're fighting for. So now that I've graduated from the SPE, the regular board, I'm even off the golf outing now, thankfully. I'm on the Education Foundation board.
Yeah, that's a good board.
So, but our local chapter, in our local chapter, every year we give out 65, 70 grand to, we submit, we send out an email blast to all the schools, and we say, for your STEM programs, your technology programs, tooling programs, tell us what you need.
Yeah.
In my middle school, my junior high, where my daughter went, the tech ed teacher, who was the same guy I had when I was growing up, which is funny. I thought he was really old back then. We got him a tabletop plastic injection molding machine. We got him a tabletop CNC machine so he can cut his own inserts for that machine.
Yep.
I mean, in the last 2 years, I've probably given him 25 grand.
Yep.
Because he is bonkers trying to get these kids to understand.
Well, not only that, but people are not applying for these grants, because
we
have the same thing.
Money out.
We are in, TMA, Technology Manufacturing Association. We have so much money to give away, and we're looking to give it away. The SPE, we have grants to give away. The AMBA is always looking to give away money for the education foundation that they have. And we want to have these schools furnished with proper equipment. We want to have these schools teaching kids that manufacturing is fun and it's cool and it's interesting. My son is not, he doesn't love working with his hands. He's a hard worker, but his favorite classes right now are his drawing classes, drawing like part design classes.
Okay.
And he's already learning how to do like a version of SolidWorks and all those things as a freshman in high school. And, he's expanding parts and blowing them up and trying to come up with all this stuff and working on ideas for products and all of these things that are being taken for granted and forgotten about because maybe you didn't get an A in math or, whatever it is, right? Some kids suck at math, like me. I hate it.
I'm horrible. And I grew up in a house where my dad has a human calculator.
Yeah.
And what do you mean you got a C in math? Well, what do you mean? I got an A in history and an A in literature. It's like, what about math?
Right.
And this dude was just calculating. I mean, we got engineers that are sitting in the conference room going over a project and they're calculating stuff and he's just waiting. He's got the answer in his head. He's just waiting.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, you're wired differently. But, and even now, like you said, the TMA, so we have the TDMAW here in Wisconsin. So it's
okay.
Association. So, I was on the board for that, president on that board also, because I have a bad habit of becoming president of boards. We just created an education foundation, which I'm the president of, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to reach out to industry leaders here in Wisconsin and get some money to build up the pot. Because in the plastics foundation, we have over $1 million sitting in there. We have $1 million. So that's why we can give away 50, 60, 70 grand every year because we don't touch the principal. We just give out the interest.
Yeah.
So I want to do the same thing on the tooling side to get grants out, to get these kids, to get them involved, to put 3D printers in schools and to, get these guys or these kids that, are tearing apart a 69 Chevelle with their dad every weekend and rebuilding the engine. And they're really smart kids.
Yep.
But maybe a 4-year degree is not their cup of tea.
No.
But, the biggest thing I've also ran into is counselors at these schools.
Yes.
They discount these kids.
Yep.
They think they're all the dumb kids. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not a fair assessment. Maybe the kid's not good at math and putting the pencil to the paper, but he can rebuild a small block Chevy with his eyes closed, with her eyes closed.
And the last show we had was with Tina Zwolinski from Skills Gap. And we were talking about, I would love to see schools take pride in kids getting jobs right out of high school, placement, and brag on that. So when you're trying to get kids to come to your high school versus another high school, maybe you're bragging about the fact that in your tech program, this many kids got placed right out of school, and make a big deal about that and get the parents excited and engaged for it, because they're going to listen to the counselor, and the counselor's going to listen to the teacher, and they're going to promote. It's like anything else. They're going to promote where the money is, right? Yeah, and so if they're getting money for X amount of kids going to this school or that school or whatever, and there's promotion for that, that's what they're going to push, because that's what they care about. And it sounds sad. And again, maybe I'll get flack, but it's just what I really, truly believe. I don't think there's good teachers, there's bad teachers, there's good counselors, there's bad counselors.
Yes.
Some care about the kids. Some care about recognition and just having their pay and whatever else. And I think those good teachers and counselors are the ones that push the kids to be authentic in who they are and do the best that they can with the traits and the skills and the talents that they have, and explore those and just encourage those things.
Yeah. I mean, look, a doctor, a medical professional, that's still a trade.
Yes.
A much fancier trade if you would, but it's just a trade. So what's the difference? I mean, when I go into, tool shops and I look at what they're building and the tolerances they're working with and the perfection to detail.
Yeah.
Holy cow, man. Look at this.
Yep.
Look at this. If people could see all that,
yep, which
is, back to the whole, how do we get this whole word out? If people could see that, it would be phenomenal. It would be phenomenal. I mean, I think it would be a different perception, but you got to get the parents and the counselors to somehow buy into it, because they're the ones who are going to drive the kids to decide what they're going to do. And at the end of the day, you want to do something that you love and that you can make a living at,
right.
And everyone's definition of making a living is different. But, growing up, I mean, my entire family, from my uncles to my brother to my friends, have all been in manufacturing.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
They're all doing pretty good.
Well, look at it this way. It's not cheap to go to Greece. Right. And you said earlier in the show that your dad was taking the whole family to Greece every year.
Every year.
And
kid.
I would challenge quote unquote good jobs, right? People that are able to do that for their kids and their family.
My dad will always tell you it's money management.
Yeah.
It's all about money management. We didn't have a second car. See, so my dad is always like, he tells some of the young guys here, he goes, oh, you should have a new car every couple of years. And they look at him like, you're crazy. He goes, well, I know what I pay you, but you went out and you bought a motorcycle, an ATV, you got a camper, you bought a fishing boat, you got this, you got that, and you live in an apartment. Why? Why don't you have a house? And he lectures these kids. And they look at him like he's this crazy freak from a different country who doesn't understand. And they always joke with me and say, oh, your dad came to this country rich. So what are you guys talking about? He goes, why would you say that? He goes, well, he doesn't understand what it's like to be poor. I said, really? I said, because in 1969, when he came here, he was making monthly payments to TWA for his airfare that him and my mom came over on. And then I said, a year later, his father died in Greece and he couldn't afford to go home.
Yeah.
And so easy with the wealth thing.
Right.
I said, my parents, they lived in an apartment in an area of Milwaukee called Pigsville, which is right by the Miller Brewer Valley.
Yep.
And my mom was assembling carburetors or something at Harley Davidson. And I said, my dad was going to work. And, it wasn't what do we want, it was what do we need.
Yes.
And there was the difference.
Yes.
That's the difference with people. It's what do you need? I mean, you could be a millionaire and still be broke because whatever,
My grandparents, same thing, right? From Greece, they had minimal clothing. They had nothing was fancy and new, but bought cars cash, bought a 2-flat, rented stuff out. We lived in the 2-flat for a little while. Of course we did, right? Because we're Greek. So we had to have the same house for a while. He always had steaks in the freezer. So if somebody came over, he could give them steaks, but nothing was ever charged. everything was paid for, bought and paid for, and lived on what they needed. They gardened, so they had all their own groceries. They picked dandelions out of the yard
Oh
and,
God.
and ate those. And they did what they had to do. They didn't live a frivolous lifestyle. They weren't buying the newest, latest, greatest this and that. He had the same watch forever, right? Never bought a new watch, never bought a new TV, never bought those things. It was a different kind of lifestyle.
I still had the same alarm clock that he had when we were little kids.
Right.
Same alarm clock. And my dad, you know, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't want anything, but.
See, that's where our parents are different.
Well, and I still get yelled at for buying in. I bring in, you know, I'll go to McDonald's and pick something up to eat. My dad's like, you couldn't make a sandwich at home. You know, but, you know, they grew up, the Greek immigrants and the Irish and the Italian and the Germans and whoever else. I mean, when you grew up in post-war Europe, where your country's been devastated and you have nothing, whatever, and you come here, you bring that with you.
Yep.
You know, and my kids and probably your kids and everybody else's kids, I mean, they're spoiled. They got everything they need.
Totally.
There's never I'm sorry, honey, we just can't do it this week and blah, blah. You know, I mean, okay, you don't, you know, spend all your money on them, but they never had that fear.
No.
That our parents and our grandparents and everybody else has had, you know, so it's different. So, and that's, I think, you know, with the new generation coming out, you know, they want fancy and trendy, and now it's, you know, they're evolving to vacation time is more important than money to them. And, you know, vacation is a little bit tough in our trade.
Yes.
So, because
you don't know when you can take it.
Project's due tomorrow. You can't take off, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Especially when you're in that top dog position.
Especially. I mean, I'm going down to Key West with the wife and kids at the end of the month for spring break. My phone's gonna be with me. My wife is like,
totally.
Can you please compartmentalize your time with your phone? I said, what do you mean? She goes, can you do it like from 5 a.m. to like 8 a.m. and then when we all wake up, you're off your phone?
I can guess your answer.
I said, sure, honey. Sure, no problem. And my phone's still going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do?
We went over Thanksgiving. We went to Disney and Universal and all that stuff. And, you know, my family would walk into a store and I'd stay outside and take phone calls and answer emails and do all those things. And she was like, this is ridiculous. We're on vacation and you still can't disconnect. And I said, no, I can't. I mean, and it's also my hobby, right? It's a little bit addictive and it's my hobby. I don't play video games. I don't care about video games. I used to like video games. Okay. Now to me, this is like a video game, right? Like what's the high score I can get, right? The high score is the profitability of the company and what we can do. And it's just a matter of, you know, that's my hobby. That's my passion, my family, you know, going to church and helping there, those things. But, you know, after those things, it's work. And I want to grow this business with the team that we have there so that one day maybe my son wants to take over. Yeah. And now it's building for that next generation and what things can I do to help later. And it's just fun. And there's you have the same thing, I'm sure, with your family. There's a legacy that you've been given, right? And it's a responsibility that I feel to take that and do something with it and bring it to the next level. And, you know, my father built what he did on no education, hating high school, hard work, determination, you know, what we call grit, gratitude, relationships, integrity, and tenacity. That's what he is. That's my father in a nutshell. So how do we take that as a team and build on that? Because there's no reason not to.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because I'm at the point right now where we're ready to at least grow 50% in size.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. Or how to do it, how to find people to do it. I you know, can't keep up with everything. I have no more physical space in this building. You know, so I got a lot on my plate, you know, like we're growing in a couple segments, new opportunities. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? You know, so, and you know, so my oldest daughter turned 15 today. So she's got well,
happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Ella. although she's not listening. But I don't know if she's ever going to have any interest. I have 3 girls. So the youngest will be 3 next month.
Okay.
Then there's the 4-year-old. And then there's a 15-year-old.
Okay.
So my wife is like, well, aren't you going to stick around long enough for one of the kids to get in the company? I said, well, the 15-year-old, she's into baking. She wants to open up bakeries. She is phenomenal. I'm so glad that she's on this whole baking thing. And the fact that now that she just turned 15, she is dying to get her driver's license. That worried me. Because, you know, a lot of 15, 16-year-olds nowadays don't want to drive. And I'm a car
I got one of them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, he's 14. He'll be 15 at the end of this month, and he's
he's
taking driver's ed, but he says driving is very scary, and he'd rather me just drive him around.
No. And I'm a car nut, so I told Ella, I said, we're going up to Road America. You're taking the teenage driving course.
Awesome.
You're going to do the same winter one. We're going to go fly out to Arizona for Bob Bondurant. I'm like, you're going to learn how to drive, so I can sleep easy.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was 16 and what we did to cars.
Yeah.
But so she's on her path. She's already talking about what locations to open up a bakery and blah, blah, blah. So am I going to stick around long enough at 44 years old for the 3-year-old to come in? I guess I'll cross that bridge when it comes. You know, I'd be more than happy. But I've asked young guys here and said, hey, what do you guys think about, you know, maybe one day taking over?
Yeah.
They got no interest. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, we could do a whole nother hour on this topic.
Oh, yeah.
Of just.
I was going to ask you, how are we doing on time here?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap us up, but you know, just that idea of entrepreneurship and ownership versus being an employee. I mean, there's a whole different thing to that, and I think there's a lot of worker bees in the world, but not a lot of people that want to take on that next thing. And like I said, I don't want to get into a whole thing. We could do this again. We can schedule a part 2 because we're on an hour and 7 minutes now, and it feels like we just started. But,
I know, Tony. I told you, I can't shut up.
I know it's a good problem to have, right? I mean, I love your passion for everything. So, you know, we always end our show with a prayer. So if there's anybody out there that has any prayer requests, go ahead and put those in the chat. I don't know if you have anything, Pete, as far as prayers or things that we can keep in mind for you.
I don't. I mean, you know, we're coming out of a terrible year. You know, I mean, we all pray that 2021 will see an end to this. Sooner than later. You know, and obviously prayers for our industry that, you know, we can maintain where we're at and people stay safe. I mean, that's all I can ask for at the moment. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give people a hot second to put that in the chat, and then real quick, coming up today, obviously, was Pete. Next week, I have Michael Gukas on, who's from Gardner Business Media. We've got all kinds of things to talk about, whether that's, you know, some of the stuff we talked about today, going over how to get kids involved and how to share information, how to share data, where the market's going, different trends, thing like that. David Masato is from UMass Lowell in their manufacturing department. So he's going to have some information for us on that and what's going on in the colleges and what he's seeing. And then Mercedes Landazuri, I can't say her name. She needs an easier name to say. Mercedes. She's like Madonna. She really needs one name. I love who she is as a person, and she just got a new job at Peacock Colors. So we're going to talk about all kinds of things there. And then Jeremy Dworshak and Denise Samptoblin from 3M and GMN Nameplate are going to come on, and the two of them and I are doing a panel for SPE in a few weeks. So we thought this would be a good chance to just touch base on different things and what's going on with the industry and what's happening and what they're seeing. So, you know, just another thing where we got shows coming up and different things that we can talk to people about. And
Great.
It's awesome and fun and exciting. So I'm going to pray for us real quick, and then you can go about the rest of your day, my friend. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for Pete and his friendship and what he and his family do for this industry. Thank you for all the people that are listening, all the people that are watching, and we pray that you would be with them and everybody that hears this or hears of it, that they would be safe, that they would be blessed, and that this season of COVID and worry and fear would soon be something that we don't have to worry about anymore. But through all of that, we know that you have a plan and a purpose. And this year has been a time for us to be able to learn and reflect and hopefully grow. And so we just ask that you would watch over all of us, keep us safe, and help our industry to grow and kids to find new jobs, and that we could just all remember that you're in charge. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pete, my friend.
All right, Mr. Tony, thank you for the hour. Hopefully everybody got a kick out of it. Keep it up, Tony. I mean, there's not that many manufacturing podcasts out there. There's not a lot of social media other than a few of us that just keep pounding everybody with our stuff. But, hopefully it'll pick up mainstream and more people will tune in and learn.
That would be great. But, I keep saying it would be awesome if more people pass this on, if more people heard it, if more people listened. But at the end of the day, it gave you and I an opportunity to talk for an hour and change, and that's not wasted in my book. So I appreciate it. So before you go, tell everybody, how do they get a hold of Wisconsin Engraving, and how do they follow you and get in contact if they need something?
So Wisconsin Engraving, we're in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Our website is wi-engraving.com. Our Twitter handle and Instagram handle is WI Engraving. You can find us on Facebook under Wisconsin Engraving Facebook page, although I don't do too much on Facebook. And obviously you can find me on LinkedIn under Pete Kambouris, and I'm always there. And yeah, just do a Google search for the best Greek in the engraving and texturing industry, and something might come up. I don't know what might come up, but
I'm going to do that Google search later just to see what
comes up. Tell me what comes up. So, yeah, that's how you can find us, guys and gals, So much appreciated, Tony.
You got it. Hey, have a good one, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Once again, I just want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and supporting what we're trying to do with Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales and the Manufacturing Alliance and Chat and Chow and all of that. Really, the goal is to do something that's a little bit fun, a little bit unique, something that brings some value, and something that is a little bit lighter and you can enjoy. So if you liked any part of this and you would like to be a part of it, send us an email at Tony@alliancelasersales.com. and pass it on. Let somebody else know what's happening, what's going on, what we're doing. We appreciate talking with everybody, and we want to hear your stories and tell your stories and help manufacturing grow so that this is an industry that continues on for a long, long time. We're really proud of what we do and all the people that do it. And on behalf of myself at Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales and Pete at Wisconsin Engraving, I want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care and God bless.